All right, Coach, so we kind of came off a script here for the educator in the room, and you used the word facilitator. And a lot of times, you know, because you're an educator, a lot of times you can screw things up, being the educator in the room, being the facilitator. And I always tell teachers, I said it's going to be 20 or 30 years before a kid is in those shoes right there. Most of this negative behavior that we're trying to prevent, that we're trying to work on with kids, we're trying to grow empathy amongst kids. Most of that kind of negative behavior happens outside of a teacher's sight, in the shadows of the school. And so this whole notion of circles is very important, but the teacher's the facilitator. And I think ultimately our goal is to have the teacher not be the facilitator of the circle. We know that the self-directed, self-controlled nature of our entire program is having kids make connections with each other. And I've been very fortunate to watch you make connections with kids, but you truly do it by not being the facilitator, you truly do it by making yourself vulnerable in front of kids.
Yeah, I think if you're going to run a circle, you know, the best way to describe it, if you don't have a lot of experience at it, is it's going to feel awkward. It definitely is not a comfortable thing to do your first few times. And we talk about that, you know, word vulnerability all the time. And in our professional development work, we can't talk about vulnerability without referencing Brene Brown. You might want to check her out. But yeah, it's awkward. You're really having these shared moments of vulnerability. And I think that's why kids appreciate it so much, because in order to be part of the community, you have to, you know, have those moments of vulnerability. You know, with the mental health standards and the you know, depression, anxiety statistics, and self-harm and suicide, we know that, you know, mental health couldn't be any more relevant of a topic. And what better way to socially and emotionally educate young people than by getting in a circle and having those conversations? It's really, I believe, the answer is to get in, circle up and start having that conversation on topics that are relevant. And what happens in that circle, it does feel awkward, but it's really quite powerful.
And I think for me, when I do a circle with kids, the most important thing is to pay attention myself and not like give them a lesson. My only goal when I'm deep into circle work is to make connections between kids. If one kid's talking about something that has to do with an aunt and one kid's got something to do with an uncle, there's a relationship that they have that's very meaningful and important to them. And I like to just draw that connection between them so that when they leave that circle, maybe two kids that have never talked to each other before, maybe two kids that don't know each other, that don't even like each other. But when I draw that connection as the facilitator or the educator, there's a pretty good chance, if it's meaningful, if it's emotional, that they're gonna, you know, form some kind of a bond, and that's how it begins. So, you know, we just wanted to, like I say, come off a script here, not to, you know, be in the educator's face, to be part of your team. And hopefully some of these tools or skills that we're talking about here with circles, you can bring to your circle and have a much more rich, meaningful, deep experience with your students.
You know, for me, judgment-free space rarely happens in school, unfortunately. It's just human nature. Kids are going to judge each other. And when you create that by having a circle, really strong experience. I think the other is forced listening. You talk about making those connections because of the listening that you're doing as an educator, as the adult, as a facilitator. Training kids how to listen to each other is really a neat side effect of circles. And lastly, I think it was Daniel Coyle pointed out how important belonging cues are, and how when you share ideas with a group and you play with ideas, you can, intelligence is born. And I believe when you get in a circle and you play with ideas that are social and emotional, I think that's when emotional intelligence is born. So for me, it's the judgment-free, the shared, you know, moments of vulnerability through listening, and then also that emotional intelligence that's born inside the circle.
So have fun with your circles, teachers. This is the entire package that we're going to put together here with all of these videos. You should be watching a quick video of the presentation. We're going to ask a question or two kind of to spark your circle conversation or question, and then have fun with it and let them talk, let them share, let them connect.